I see leaders, in inverted commas, or bosses, that who don't necessarily work, they ask others to work. And they take the responsibility for others. Do not send your people where you are not prepared to go. Now we have a crisis. I heard a few questions about COVID. Well, we've had quite a few crises, or crises, if you like. We've had Wakatio, we've had Mauritius being on a blacklist as far as AML-CFT is concerned, and of course, COVID-19. As is pretty consistent with our people, out of a mountain of despair, we always hew a stone of hope. And during a time of crisis, the Oxford Dictionary describes it as a time to take a crucial decision, that's really Greek, or a time of intense difficulty, great difficulty. But look at how the Greeks look at this crisis. Time to take a decision. It's like risk. If I ask you about risk, you will say the risk that I could lose something. In Chinese, Wenji is risk, is upside risk and downside risk. Out of risk comes an opportunity as well. Likewise, risicare in Latin, upside risk, downside risk. In a crisis comes opportunities, a time to take a crucial decision. Now you're looking at those aircrafts and there you know, we're talking about our national carrier, Air Mauritius. The strategy, something dreadfully wrong, whoever was running that company. We've got an A320, or two A320s. We've got an A319. We've got 4 A330s, 4 A350s, and 4 A340s. Now, flying an aircraft, ladies and gentlemen, is not like driving a car. I could drive a Nissan Juke one day, and the next day drive a Mercedes-Benz. That's not allowed in aviation. You fly one aircraft and one aircraft only. You fly the A330neo, you can't fly the A340. Now, why in God's name have you got so many different types of aircrafts from the same company? One of the biggest airlines in the world, Emirates, 2 types of aircrafts, A380 and a 777. Why have we got so many? I ask the question. How are you going to compete? That's strategy. Strategy is how. You can't have a strategy to be the best airline. That's an objective. How are you? Well, it's complete madness. But I think out of this crisis, you're likely to find when they restructure that we will have 2 aircrafts. Very probably we'll have the A330s and the A350s. It's an opportunity. Time to get rid of some of these, if you like, shed fat in a realistic way. We do not need the various types of aircrafts that we've got. We need aircrafts, obviously. So out of that comes an opportunity. Time to take a crucial decision. This, of course, requires leadership. Leadership is about influence. I look around me in my 4 years in Mauritius, and I see bosses. I don't see leaders. I see leaders, in inverted commas, or bosses, that who don't necessarily work, they ask others to work. And they take the responsibility for others. Do not send your people where you are not prepared to go. I see the traditional type of leadership. And we believe that Generation Z have a problem. Nah, it's we that's got the problem. Generation Z hasn't got a problem. One size does not fit all. The world has changed. We're talking about leadership 4.0. We're talking about artificial intelligence. The sad thing about leadership is that we will lead in the same way as we were led. Benjamin Franklin once says, there are 2 certainties in life, death and taxation. Mohamed Khan introduces a 3rd one, having a terrible leader. Because we were led in that particular way, we will lead somebody in that particular way. Let me make the point to you. Leadership is about influence. Influence is the ability to get someone to think and act differently. People do not go along with you unless they get along with you. It's a bloody nonsense to suggest otherwise. You can boss them, and they will do it because their contract says they may do it. As a result of that, you get contractual effort. You do not get discretionary effort. If you get discretionary effort, they will go beyond the call of duty. And obviously, your institution will prosper. Obviously, shareholder or stakeholder value, brand equity, a promise kept, will improve. It goes without saying, without question. Make that point very clear to you. As I said, I'm not talking here about rocket science. It's just to remind you of your moral values, which is what ethics is all about, to create value. That's all. We tend to forget these things. We get wrapped up in the numbers, and you forget what we call resources, human resources. You know, I usually say to people, you manage resources, you manage projects, you manage risk, you don't manage people. You lead people. People, you lead them, you influence them. A leader knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. There are various models of leadership, and I have professors here. You'll tell me about a Taoist model of leadership. They're at the back. You don't tend to see them. Well, I prefer this way. In a time of crisis, you want to see the leader. Do not send your people where you are not prepared to go. Frequently in big organizations, they bring in the military. You know, you get the big banks, HSBCs and the whole lot. They bring in the military to talk to them about leadership. I usually shake my head and says, what the hell are you doing? Can you not see that there is a juxtaposition paradox, if you like, putting the two things side by side? It's a false bloody dichotomy. Allow me to make the point to you. In the military, they have reconnaissance missions where someone or some people will go out. They go out to see how dangerous it is, and as a result of which, other people may live. So those people going out on reconnaissance may die, but another 200 people will live as a result. That's military culture. That's the way we do things there. What about organization culture? Is it the same? I don't see it that way. I see it the other way around. Let me remind you, military culture. They sacrifice themselves so others may live. It's the other way around with these leaders I see in organization culture. They sacrifice others so they may survive. That's generally what happens. And it's a bloody nonsense at the end of the day. But they bring them in and, you know, a lot of talk. Are you going to change, though, I wonder? What do you do that? To tick a box to say we've had someone from Sandhurst, West Point? It's as they say, it's like Teflon. Throwing water on a duck's back, it never sticks at the end of the day. Are you going to do what they say? If not, why the hell did you bring them in, I ask the question. You need this type during a crisis. Knows the way, shows the way, goes the way. They say, in a crisis, or a crisis shows up a leader. That's if you're incompetent. Or during a crisis, a leader shows up. I've got the orange man, Mr. Trump. If he loses on November the 4th or whenever their election is, it'll be because of COVID. He was well on his way to being re-elected. The economy was doing very well. But what did he do? He calls it Kung flu. He moves his hand like this when he talks, you see. He says, Kung flu will soon disappear. Well, it hasn't. You may disappear, sir. A crisis shows up a leader. Sometimes, during a crisis, a leader shows up. Had he taken the lead, as indeed the South Koreans had done, as indeed Mauritius had done, you know, we must pat ourselves on the back. The World Health Organization predicted that 16,000 of us will be dead as a result of COVID. We're the second most densely populated country in the world. Not even 16 died. I think we can influence the world. We looked for leadership from this man, and we didn't get it. And if he loses the election in November, he may still, of course. It'll be because of the crisis, the COVID, have dealt with it. Some people, of course, do exactly like the ostrich. They dig their head in the sand. They pretend it's not happening. That's not going to add value to your company. Be decisive. Face it full on at the end of the day. That's when your people are going to look to you and maybe follow you. It's a time, of course, to see opportunities during a crisis. Let me take the one with the car first of all. GM, one of the biggest, used to be one of the biggest automobile industries in America. After the financial crisis, the problem with securitization of assets, you probably know what I'm talking about, these companies selling what they call subprime mortgages. That's for another day. We had a problem. The ability to purchase their cars, people couldn't. They were about to go into liquidation, what the Americans call bankruptcy. They had filed for Chapter 11. I mean, that's not really English. You can't file for bankruptcy. You file for protection from bankruptcy. All right? To give you a chance to restructure. No government in the past had ever assisted the automobile industry in America. During a time of crisis, thousands, tens of thousands of people are going to lose their job. The value of GM Motors? Nil. Virtually nil. It's at the same time that President Obama took office. And he simply said to them, time to rethink here now. Let's look at some strategies. And what did they come up with? Green cars. The half electric, the one you call hybrid. The strategy completely changed. See opportunities out of this. This is where the leader needs to be erudite, knowledgeable. Do not simply be obsessed with your processes, as I see people up here are obsessed with processes. Do the right thing as opposed to the right way. You know, people are obsessed with processes. Brr, this way, this. They are archaic, as somebody described it. It's gone. Do the right thing. Measure or judge me by my results, not my methods, provided they're ethical. All right? Provided you've got people in mind at the end of the day, it will result in increased stakeholder value, not just shareholder value, stakeholder value. You look around here. Barcelona has been described as a company rotten to the core. They got beaten 7 or 8-2 by Bayern Munich. Sorry for those of you that are not footballing fans. It's a massive company. Big company. They've hired Ronald Koeman. And he starts looking for opportunities. He's getting rid of people like Luis Suarez, Ivan Rakitic, and now trying to grow the... Now, I know you're probably going to say, Mr. Khan, you just are telling us that work in an ethical way. Well, I'm afraid Luis Suarez isn't exactly poor. Ivan Rakitic is not exactly poor. All right? Look to the new ones. They missed the trick in not getting rid of Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi earns 100 million euros a year. You should have gotten rid of him. He's 33 years of age. How many years have he got? Short-term thinking. Think a little bit further. They've got an academy called La Masia with a number of young players. Should be. Reset your strategy. During a crisis, you get to the bottom, it does bounce. It will bounce. Reset it. It's where the leadership becomes important. People development. Go to the front. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care, particularly at a time of crisis, at a time of uncertainty, as it says there. Do not downsize. A Harvard Business Review in August 2017 point out that you increase your chances of going into liquidation or administration by 42% if you downsize, meaning sacking people. You lose knowledge. Your employees go through the door. Customers are going to be unhappy. You lose trust in those that remain. They are thinking, it's me next. A satisfied customer is the best strategy. You lose loyalty. You lose engagement. Don't do it if you can avoid it. Sacrifice comes from the top. Downsize, Harvard Business Review. Increase your chances of liquidation and administration. As you lead to leave a legacy. Out of a crisis, a leader shows up. Great leaders come out of a crisis. Periods of uncertainty. You may know that picture. Christians believe that Jesus is God. And if you pursue that for a minute, whether you believe that Jesus is God or not, you will see on this side as opposed to that side. This is what I see a lot of the times. The traditional type of leadership. The alpha male. Nobody wants this now. They've done a survey. Over 2,000 people. No one wants that now. They prefer this. Jesus is washing, pursue the analogy, God is washing the feet of his disciples. He says in the Bible, if you believe he's God or not. He says, "It is better that I humble myself before you, so that you may humble yourself to those that come after me. In the same way as that plants grow on soft earth as opposed to rocks." Think about it. Ethics. God is washing the feet of his disciples. You lead to leave a legacy. You grow your company, you grow people. Lee Iacocca, big in Ford. He designed the best ever selling car when he was at Ford, the Ford Mustang. They threw him out. He went across, of course, to Chrysler. He worked for $1 a year. The fish stinks from the head. The perfume also comes out of the top from the head as well. What's his legacy? "I'll sacrifice. I'll keep you working. I might earn 200,000-300,000 rupees a month. Why do I want to sack the admin assistant who earns 12,000 a month? Does it make sense? Is it ethical? You downsize that way, you're going to have a problem. Where have all the leaders gone? Lee Iacocca actually says. All right? Fish stinks from the head, perfume comes out of the top. He must get people together. Congruence. During a time of crisis, there is strength in size. Magic Johnson once says, players win matches, teams win championships. E pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. One goal. That's the meaning of congruence. Get them to work together. The results justifies the means. That's leadership skills. Remain calm. This gentleman was well known for being calm. He took over in 2008, 2009 after the financial crisis. He had the automobile industry. He helped to save them. This, of course, is an American Air aircraft, or US Air, or whatever it is. Captain Sully got hit by a bird strike, manages to bring the aircraft down in the Hudson River. Nobody dies. Stay calm. If you panic, think about it. You're all fathers, mothers, whatever the case may be. If the leader panics, we're going to have bedlam. We're going to have mayhem. And the company will fall apart. There'll be no value created after that. The other C is communicate. George Bernard Shaw, actually, and this is a huge problem in my time in Mauritius, people don't communicate. We suffer from what we call mind blindness. Or in England, we call it the curse of knowledge. I know, I believe you know. You talk to the accountants and they talk about PBIT. What the hell is that? Yeah? Profit before income, interest and tax, is it? All right, well, tell me that. Okay, days inventory ratio. You talk to the doctors. Erythromycin is a replacement for penicillin. What the hell are you talking about, mate? You're talking, you're not communicating. And this is why Bernard Shaw, the Irish poet, says, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that is taking place, that is happening. It's a nonsense. It doesn't happen. You know, the others don't know. Communicate in a clear and concise manner during a crisis. People know what's expected of them. You know, you don't go talking about a strategy and do people really understand what strategy is? I hear things like, we have a strategy to be number one in Africa. That is an objective. That is not a strategy. How are you going to do it? So communicate so people understand what you're trying to do. You know, you use words assuming that people understand. Culture. Culture is the way we do things here. All right? Don't make the assumption that people understand. You want to build value and create value, ensure everyone understands what you are talking about. That's leadership. And of course, connect with your people. I'll finish in 1 minute. Connect with your people. Maya Angelou says, this is where you get discretionary effort. You don't get contractual effort. They'll give you more. She says, I've discovered that people will forget what you say. I've discovered what people will forget what you do. I've also discovered that people will never forget the way you make them feel. And when you think of why you married your partners or you go out with a girlfriend, they made you feel special at that time. I'm pretty sure your wives, if they knew then what they know now, they wouldn't marry you. How do you connect with people? I'll give you one tip. I can go on and talk for the next 5 hours on this, but I'll just tell you the power of laughter. During times of uncertainty, people lose trust, people lose hope. Do not forget the power of laughter. Charlie Chaplin actually says it's the tonic, the relief, and the cure. On a Friday evening, you go to Hennessy Park, you go to Soufrienne, and you have an alcoholic drink. And your brain releases dopamine, which creates pleasure. It's temporary, but it's good. It's better than doom and gloom. The power of laughter. Never take yourself seriously. Take your job seriously, not yourself seriously. Bronwyn Jones, a nurse, a palliative nurse in a hospice where people are dying. Top 5 regrets when they're about to die. He never laughed enough. Too late, you're going to go soon. Take yourself not seriously, take your job seriously. Mohamed Khan says, you see, I teach law. It's a very boring. I teach regulatory law. When you make people laugh, they're listening. And when they listen, you can tell them anything. Imagine me having to tell you the validity of an act done by a company shall not be called into question on the grounds of lack of capacity by reason of anything contained or not contained in a company's constitution. You don't know what the hell I've just been saying. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not communicating. But if I make you laugh, I can tell you exactly what is in that section. You make people laugh, they're listening. During a crisis, you make them feel good temporarily. And Winston Churchill says, if you make people laugh for a few seconds, it's like giving them a holiday. Do we not all need a holiday at this moment in time? Happy cows produce more milk. We talk about stakeholder value creation. That's what it's all about. You make people happy. You make them feel as if they belong. They will create more value for everyone. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.